is no big deal. I mean, all the slaves had jobs, you know, but they didn't get to enjoy the fruits of their labor. That's what made them slaves. Well, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to enslave the Chinese and tell them you need to work so that we can consume products. That's not the way it works. We need to produce products so that we can consume them. And if we want the Chinese products, we need to make something to trade. We need to give them something of value. We just can't keep running money off a printing press and say this is an even trade. You give us all the products you make and we'll give you the money we print. You know, and the Chinese, of course, they can't spend that money on anything. They just have to stockpile it. So I think this dynamic is coming to an end. And we saw that recently where the Federal Reserve announced that they were going to be monetizing government debt. They were going to be buying $300 billion in treasuries, and they're going to buy another $700 billion in mortgage-backed securities and some more, you know, agency debt. This is a sign that we can't sell our bonds. Because believe me, the Fed wouldn't be doing this if they didn't have to. If we could find foreign buyers, we'd sell to them. The fact that the Fed has to print money, this shows that we're nearing the end of the game. And you know, one of the announcers on CNBC, when they first reported it, she thought that this was like a big deal, like this is, you know, aha, you know, to the Chinese, like, if you don't want to buy our bonds, it's no problem. We'll print the money and buy them ourselves. Like it's the same thing. You know, because when we get the Chinese to buy our bonds, we export our inflation to China. Because the Chinese central bank has to print up RMB, and it uses the RMB to buy dollars, and then it takes those dollars and buys our bonds. So we don't get hit with any of the inflation. The Chinese get hit with the inflation. That's our big export. We export our inflation to China. But if the Fed prints the money and the Chinese are not involved, then we get the inflation immediately because our money supply grows. The Fed has to create money to buy those bonds. But, you know, when governments create money, what do? I mean, they don't create any purchasing power by printing money. If that was true, if you can create purchasing power by printing money, nobody would need a job. We just all have little printing presses. You know, so what happens when the government prints money is they reallocate purchasing power from people who have money to people who get the new money, right? Because all government is doing is debasing money. They're redistributing the purchasing power that exists. Where new purchasing power comes from is production. The only way we can buy more is if we make more. If we just print more, we can't buy any more. All that means is we have to pay more for what we do buy. And that's what's going to happen. You know, people make the assumption that the problem is a lack of money. We don't have enough money. And if we just had more money, we can go spend it. No. It's not that we don't have the money. We don't have the stuff. You know, they used to make that same argument in the Soviet Union years ago. They would say that Americans, I remember watching Vladimir Putin on, I think he was on like one of these interview shows, you know, when who was the guy before Oprah Winfrey? The white-haired guy. Phil Donahue. He was on a Phil Donahue show. I remember watching this. And he basically said, he tried to describe the difference between the American economy and the Russian economy. And he said, in America, you have all this stuff. You have products on the shelves, but nobody has any money to buy. In Russia, we have a different problem. Everybody has money, but there's nothing on the shelves. And somehow he thought that our problem was worse. He thought that eventually there'd be stuff there. Well, the fact is, having money means nothing. Anybody can run, you know, money off a printing press. You need stuff. So the reason Americans can't buy isn't because we don't have enough paper, it's because we don't have enough stuff. We need to produce more in order to consume more. Printing isn't going to do anything. But people don't think that. They think, well, you know, if we could just have money, we can go buy stuff. And again, they think that the reason that the economy is in trouble is because people stop buying, because people stop borrowing, because people can't go out and borrow more money. That's not why we're in trouble. We're in trouble because we borrowed all the money in the first place, because we spent all the money in the first place. That's why we're in trouble. The fact that we're broke and now we can't spend any more money shouldn't surprise anybody. That's what happens when you don't save your money and you spend it all. You're broke. But if you look at what the stimulus plan is, right? What is the stimulus? What the whole basis of the stimulus is to get Americans spending. But we're broke. How are we supposed to spend? Well, the government's idea is, well, if American citizens are too broke to spend, well, we'll just spend for them. But where does the government get the money if not from the people? So if we're broke, we can't afford all this extra government. The spending was the problem. Look at the new plan they just passed for automobiles. They just passed this the other day to give you a tax break if you go buy a new car. Why the hell would they want us to buy new cars? I mean, we're broke. You got an American that can barely afford his mortgage. He's got credit card debt, and Barack Obama wants him going out and buying a new car and taking on even more debt. I mean, how can anybody look around at the United States and say the problem in the United States economy is that we don't have enough cars? I mean, we got cars all over the place. We got too many cars. We got 2 or 3 cars per household. We don't need new cars. Right? We need to make cars. We need to manufacture cars. We need to export cars. But we really don't need to buy more cars, especially if we can't afford it. Why should we be going into debt to buy cars? If we're in a problem right now because we have too much debt, how does the stimulus make the problem better? It makes it worse. Because when we finish spending all the stimulus money, now we've got the same problems, but we got more debt. Right? The solution is that we stop spending. We have to start saving. You know, people say, but no, we can't save. They talk about this paradox of thrift, that if people start saving, then the recession is going to get worse. Well, maybe it will get worse, but the recession is the cure, remember? We need to stop spending. We need to save our money. If it means that the phony economy collapses, then that's what has to happen. We can't keep spending just to perpetuate that phony economy. We can't keep telling people they have to buy new cars just so people can have jobs working in car showrooms. Obviously, they shouldn't be there. Maybe a lot of these car dealerships need to be closed down. You know, bankruptcy is not a bad thing. Bankruptcy is a perfectly healthy thing for the market to do. You know, just like if you're sick, you have an infection in your body, the body fights it off. It doesn't help the infection. The infection wants to grow, but it's hurting the body, and the body's going to attack it. Well, when you have a corporation that's losing money, that's operating at a loss, that's like an infection on a healthy economy. We need to get rid of it. We need to cleanse it through the bankruptcy system. Because what that company is doing is they're combining resources and squandering them. They're operating at a loss. The idea is to make a profit. That's how society grows, by effectively and efficiently organizing resources, which are land, labor, and capital. So if a company is making a loss, we want to get rid of it. What does the U.S. government want to do when a company is losing money? They want to subsidize it. They want to keep it in business. That doesn't make any sense at all. Because, again, the government doesn't have any money. If the government's going to keep one company in business, how are they going to do that? They've got to divert resources from another company. There was just an article today in the newspaper about how Berkshire Hathaway, which still has a AAA rating, is paying more to borrow money than Citigroup or than Fannie Mae. Why? Well, because the government is subsidizing these companies. So now it's more expensive for other people. And probably a lot of other people can't get credit at all because that credit is being diverted from the government to other companies that should be going bankrupt, that shouldn't even exist. But they have us believe that, no, we have to prop these companies up. The companies have to fail. That's all part of the solution. It's part of the cure. Sure, when a company goes bankrupt, you can see all the people that lose their jobs. But when you prop them up, it's difficult to make the connection between somebody else that lost their job so this company can be propped up. Why do we want the government making these decisions? Here you have, there's a big public uproar now because of the money that was given in bonuses to AIG employees, about $150 million. Meanwhile, we gave them $150 billion, $175 billion. Nobody complained about that. But the whole idea is, if we hadn't bailed AIG out, this wouldn't even be an issue because these people would be out of work. They wouldn't be getting bonuses. There'd be no money to be paid. People are talking about these contracts. There would be no contracts. The company would be in bankruptcy. But first the government gives them all the money, and now we're upset at what they do with it. What do we expect? Right? I mean, it's like, if you give your teenage kid, car keys and alcohol, and then he crashes the car, you're going to, what do you expect is going to happen? You don't think these guys are going to pay out some of the money that they got to themselves in bonuses to the South? What do you think they're going to do with it? But if we were concerned, we shouldn't have given the money in the first place. But according to the government, it's always 2 wrongs make a right. They do one thing wrong, and now they have to do something else wrong. They try to pass this tax to tax the bonuses at 90%, and that creates a terrible precedent of illegal taxing power for the government. They usurp more power. But what's happening, so in addition to the stimulus